A pleasant day to everyone. For this lesson, I'm going to discuss about the performance management and the reward system in the context of human behavior. In the end of this lesson, you will be able to conceptualize what is performance management. You can also distinguish performance management from performance appraisal. And also, you can identify some advantages and make business case for implementing a well-designed performance management system and recognize the multiple negative consequences that can arise from the poor design and implementation of performance management system. These negative consequences affect all the parties involved, such as employees, supervisor, and the organization as a whole. You can also understand the concept of reward system and its relationship to a performance management system. You can also distinguish among the various types of employees' rewards, including the compensation, benefits, and the relational return. And you can also distinguish among the various types of employees' rewards, including compensation, benefits, and relational return. You can also describe the multiple purposes of performance management system, including strategic, administrative, informational, developmental, organizational maintenance, and the documentational purposes. And for the last, you can also describe and explain some of the key features of an ideal performance management system. So now, what is performance management? When we talk about performance management, it deals with the continuous process of identifying, measuring, and developing the performance of individual and teams and aligning performance with strategic goals of the organization. With the definition, we have the two key words there. First is the continuous process, and the second one is the alignment with a strategic goal. First is the continuous process. So once we talk about continuous process, this is the ongoing performance of a management. It is also involved a never-ending process of having a setting goals and objective. And through the process, we need to observe the performance, and also through observation, we can give and receiving ongoing coaching and also the feedbacking. And the second one is the alignment with strategic goals. So in here, the performance management requires that the managers need to ensure that all the employees' activities or even the output are linked or aligned with the organizational goals. And also, they need to help those employees to gain more competitive advantages. In performance management, they need to create a direct link between the employee performance and the organizational goals and make employees' contribution to that organization explicit. Always remember that every organization have the so-called performance management. However, we must distinguish between the performance management and the performance appraisal. Having a system that involves employees' evaluation once a year without ongoing efforts to provide any feedback or coaching so that their performance can be improved is not a true performance management system. Instead, this is only a performance appraisal system. In performance appraisal, this is the systematic description of an employee's strengths and weaknesses. Thus, performance appraisal is an important component of performance management, but it is just not a part or a big part of the whole, because performance management is a much more than just a performance measurement. Performance management system that do not make explicit the employee contribution to the organizational goal are not true performance management systems. Making an implicit or explicit link between an employee's performance objective and the organizational goals also serve the purpose of establishing a sure understanding about what is to be achieved and how it is to be achieved. Now, how to achieve this kind of performance management? So these are the important contributions. First, we need to have the so-called motivation to perform is increased. By giving feedback about one's performance, increase the motivation for future performance. Knowledge about how one is doing and recognition about one's past successes provide the fuel for future accomplishment. Knowledge about how one is doing and recognition about one's past successes provide the fuel for future accomplishment. The second one is we have here the self-esteem is increased. Receiving feedback about one's performance fulfills a basic human needs to be recognized and valued at work. This, in turn, is likely to increase employees' self-esteem. For the third one, managers gain insight about subordinates. Gaining new insight into a person's performance and even their personality will help the manager build a better relationship with that person or with that employees. Also, supervisors gain a better understanding of each individual's contribution to the organization. This can be useful for direct supervisors as well as for supervisors once removed. For the fourth one is the definitions of the job and criteria are clarified. The job of a certain employees being appraised may be clarified and defined more clearly. In other words, employees gain better understanding of the behavior and even the results required for their specific position. Employees also gain a better understanding of what it takes to be successfully performer. So having one, you need to give a specific criteria that describe on how they get or how they achieve in their job success. And also for number 5 is the self-insight and development are enhanced. The participants in the systems are likely to develop a better understanding of themselves and of the kind of development activities that are value of them as they progress through the organization. Employees or any participants in the system also gain a better understanding of their particular strengths and weaknesses that can help them better define their future career path. For number 6 is the administrative action are more fair and appropriate. So in performance management system, it provides a valid information about performance that can be used for administrative action, such as having a merit increases or having a promotions or transfers, as well as termination. So in general, a performance management system helps ensure that rewards are distributed on a fair and credible basis. In turn, such decision based on the sound performance management system lead to improved interpersonal relationship and enhance supervisors' subordinate trust. So like for example, having a good performance management system can help mitigate explicit or implicit emphasizes on the age as a basis for decision. This is particularly important given an aging working population in any country. For the next one is the organizational goals are made clear. The goals of the unit and the organization are made clear, and the employees understand the link between what she does and organizational success. So this is a contribution to the communication of what the unit and the organization are all about and how organizational goals cascade down to the unit and the individual employees. Having a performance management system can help improve employee acceptance of these wider goals. Example, even yung mga organization or even the unit levels. And also, employees become more competent. An obvious contribution is that employees' performance is improved. In addition, this is a solid foundation for helping employees become more successful by establishing developmental plans. And also, we have here the employee misconduct is minimized. Employee misconduct is an increasingly pervasive phenomenon that has received widespread media coverage. Such misconduct includes accounting irregularities, turning customers' account, abusing overtime policy, or even giving inappropriate gifts to clients and potential clients hoping to secure their business and using company resources for personal use. Although some individuals are more likely to engage in misconduct compared to others based on individual differences in personalities and other attributes. Having a good performance management system in place provide the appropriate context so that this misconduct is clearly defined and labeled as such and identified early on before it leads to sometimes irreversible negative consequences. And also, there is a better protection from those sued. Data collected through performance management system can help document a compliance with regulations. Example, an equal treatment of all employees regardless of their sex or ethnic Example, an equal treatment of all employees regardless of sex or ethnic background. When performance management systems are not in place, arbitrary performance evaluation are more likely, resulting in an increased exposure to litigation for the organization. Next is that there is a better and more timely differentiation between the good and poor performers. Performance management systems allow for quicker identification of good and poor performers. Also, they force supervisors to face up to and address performance problems on a timely basis. Next is we have the supervisor's view of performance are communicated more clearly. Performance management systems allows managers to communicate to their subordinates their judgments regarding performance. Thus, there is a greater accountability in how managers discuss performance expectation and provide feedback. So both assessing and monitoring the performance of others are listed as a key competencies for managers. Next is that the organizational change is facilitated. Performance management system can be useful tool to drive organizational change. For example, assume an organization decide to change its culture to give top priority to product quality and customer service. Once this new organizational direction is established, performance management is used to align the organizational culture with the goals and objectives of the organization to make change possible. Employees are provided training and necessary skills and are rewarded for improved performance so that they have both the knowledge and motivation to improve product quality and customer service. And also, we have here the motivation, commitment, and intentions to stay in the organization are enhanced. When employees are satisfied with their organization's performance management system, they are more likely to be motivated to perform well, to be committed to their organization, and not try to leave the organization. For example, satisfaction with the performance management system is likely to make employees feel that the organization has a great deal of personal meaning for them. In terms of turnover intentions, satisfaction with the performance management system leads employees to report that they will probably not look for a new job in the next year, that they don't often think about quitting their present job. Next is the voice behavior is encouraged. A well-implemented performance management system allows employees to engage in voice behavior that can lead to improve organizational processes. Having a voice behaviors involve making suggestions for changes and improvement that are innovative, challenge the status quo, are intended to be constructive, and are offered even when others disagree. For example, The performance review meeting can lead to a conversational or conversion. For example, the performance review meeting can lead to a conversation during which the employees provide suggestions on how to reduce costs or speed up a specific process. And for the last, employees' engagement is enhanced. A good performance management system lead to enhance employees' engagement. Employees who are engaged feel involved, committed, passionate, and empowered. Moreover, this attitude and feelings result in behaviors that are innovative and overall demonstrate good organizational citizenship and take action in support of the organization. Employee engagement is an important predictor of organizational performance and the success and even the consequences. Engagement is an important contribution of a good performance management system. Now, there are also disadvantages or dangers of having a poor implemented PMS or performance management system. So, this might happen. First, increased turnover. If the process is not seen as fair, employees may become upset and leave the organization. They can leave physically, example, quitting or withdraw psychologically, minimize their effort until they are able to find job elsewhere. Another thing, use of false or misleading information. If a standardized system is not in place, there are multiple opportunities for fabricating information about an employee's performance. And also the third one, lowered self-esteem. Self-esteem may be lowered if feedback is provided in an inappropriate and also inaccurate way. This, in turn, can create employee resentment. And for number 4, wasted time and money. Performance management system cost money and quite a bit of time. These resources are wasted when systems are poorly designed and implemented. Another thing is the damaged relationship. As a consequence of having a deficit system, the relationship among the individual involved may be damaged or often permanently. And also, decreased motivation to perform. Motivation may be lowered for many reasons, including the feeling that supervisors' performance is not translated into meaningful, tangible example, by increase or intangible or personal recognition rewards. And also, the employee burnout and job dissatisfaction. When the performance assessment instrument is not seen as valid, the system is not perceived as fair, employees are likely to feel increased levels of job burnout and job dissatisfaction. As a consequence, employees are likely to become increasingly irritated and also increased risk of litigation. Expensive lawsuits may be filed by individuals who feel they have been appraised unfairly. And number 9, injustice demands on managers and employees' resources. Poorly implemented systems do not provide the benefits provided by well-implemented systems, yet they take up managers' and employees' time. Such system will be resisted because of competing of obligations and allocation of resources. Example, the time. What is sometimes worse, managers might simply choose to avoid the system altogether and employees may feel increased level of overload. Next is varying and unfair standard and ratings. Both standard and individual rating may vary across and within units and be unfair. Next is emerging biases. So having a personal values, biases, and relationship are likely to replace organizational standards. And for the last, unclear rating system. Because of poor communication, employees may not know how their ratings are generated and how the ratings are translated into rewards. Now, let's talk about the rewards. Rewards is a set of mechanism for distributing both tangible or intangible return as part of the employment relationship. First rewards is we have the so-called cost of living adjustment. First reward is we have the cost of living adjustment. So in here, this is the so-called COLA that implies the same percentage increase for all employees regardless of their individual performance. The cost of living adjustments are given to combat the effect of inflation in an attempt to preserve the employees' buying power. Here in the Philippines, we have this one. However, this may change or this is not generic for every companies. It depends on the companies or how much they can give to their employees. Next is we have the income protection. In income protection, this is a kind of program served as a backup to employees' salaries in the event that the employee is sick or being disabled or no longer able to work. Next is the work or life focus. And benefits related to this one includes programs that help employees achieve a better balance between work and non-work activities. This include time away from work. Example, they having a vacation time or services to meet specific needs. Example, we have the counseling or giving financial planning or having on-site fitness program, and also some of the companies give a flexible work schedule through telecommunicating or even a non-paid time off. Next is the allowances. In allowances, this kind of benefits in all over the world includes covering some houses or transportation. This kind of allowances are typically expatriate personnel and high popular for high-level managers throughout the world. Most of the time, these allowances are given to those in the middle manager. They have the gas allowance or they have the transport allowance and so on and so forth. Other allowances can also include smartphones and their monthly charges or even allowances for having a gym fees or discounts, loans, and mortgage subsidies. Although these allowances are clearly a benefit for employees, some of them directly or indirectly also produce a benefit for their employer. And next is we have relational returns. And relational returns, these are the so-called intangible in nature. They include recognition and status, employment security, challenging work, opportunities to learn, and opportunities to form personal relationships at work, so including the friendships and even some of the romances. And next, we have here the base pay. This is given to employees in exchange for work performed. The base pay, which usually includes a range of values, focuses on the position and duties performed rather than an individual's contribution. Thus, the base pay is usually the same for all employees performing similar duties and ignores differences across employees. However, differences within the base pay range may exist based on such variables as experience and differential performance. Next is the contingent pay. In contingent pay, sometimes referred to as a merit pay, is given an addition to the base pay based on the past performance. Next is the short-term incentives. Similar to contingent pay, short-term incentives are allocated based on the past performance. However, incentives are not added to the base pay and are only temporary pay adjustment based on the review period. Example, per quarter or per annum. Incentives are one-time payment and are sometimes referred to a variable pay. A second difference between incentives and also the contingent pay is that incentives are known in advance. By contrast, in the case of contingent pay, is the most cases and a specific value of reward is not known in advance. And also for the last, we have the long-term incentives. Whereas short-term incentives usually involve an attempt to motivate performance in a short term. So again, we have the quarter or yearly and involve cash bonuses or specific prices. Example, the day offs or long-term incentives attempt to influence future performance over a longer period of time. Typically, they involve stock ownership or option to buy stocks at a pre-established and profitable price. The rationale for long-term incentives is that employees will be personally invested in the organization's success, and this investment is expected to translate into sustained high level of performance. Next is the aims and role of PM system. The information collected by the performance management system is most frequently used for salary administration, performance feedback, and identification of employees' strengths and weaknesses. So in general, however, performance management system can serve the following six purposes. So these are the strategic, administrative, informational, developmental, organizational maintenance, and the documentational purposes. So first, we have the strategic purpose. The first purpose of this performance management system is definitely to help the top management achieving a strategic management objective or business objective by linking or by connecting the organization's goals with individual goals. And performance management systems reinforce behaviors consistent with the attaining of organizational goals. Moreover, even if for some reasons individual goals are not achieved. Why? Because linking individual goals with organizational goals serves as a way to communicate what are the most crucial business strategic initiatives. A second strategic purpose of PMS is that they play an important role in onboarding process. Once we talk about onboarding process, this is referred to the processes that lead new employees to transition from being organizational outsiders to organizational insiders. The performance management serve as a catalyst for onboarding because it allows new employees to understand the type of behavior and results that are valued and rewarded, which in return lead to an understanding of the organization's cultures and its values. Next is we have here the administrative purposes. The second function of PMS is to furnish valid and useful information for making administrative decisions about employees. Such administrative decision includes the salary adjustment, the promotion, the employee retention, or even the termination, recognition of superior individual performance, and also identification of poor performers, and also the layoffs, and even the merit increases. Therefore, the implementation of reward system based on information provided by the PMS falls within the administrative purposes. Second is the informational. PMS serve as an important communications device. First, they inform employees about how they are doing and provide them with information on specific areas that may need improvement. Second, related to strategic purpose, they provide information regarding the organizations. Second, related to strategic purposes, they provide information regarding the organization and the supervisor's expectation and what aspects of work the supervisors believe are most important. Next, developmental purposes. So, as noted earlier, the feedback is an important component of a well implemented performance management system. This feedback can be used in developmental managers. Managers can use feedback to coach employees and improve performance on an ongoing basis. This feedback allows for identification of strengths and weaknesses as well as the causes of performance deficiencies, which could be due to individual or group or contextual factors. Of course, having a feedback is useful only to the extent that remedial action is taken and concrete steps are implemented to remedy any deficiencies. Feedback is useful only when employees are willing to receive it. Organizations should strive to create a feedback culture that reflects support for feedback, including feedback that is non threatening and is focused on behaviors and coaching to help interpret the feedback provided. Another aspect of this purpose is that employees receive information about themselves that can help them individualize their career path. Thus, the developmental purposes refers to both short-term and long-term aspect of development. And also, we have the organizational maintenance. The, this kind of PMS is to provide information to the use in workforce planning. Workforce planning comprises a set of systems that allows organization to anticipate and respond to needs emerging within and outside the organization, to determine priorities and to allocate human resources where they can do the most good. An important component of any workforce planning effort is the talent inventory, which is information and current resources. Example, the skills, the ability, the promotional potential, and assignment histories of a current employees. The PMS are primary means through which accurate talent inventory can be assembled. Other organization management purposes served by the PMS include assessing future training needs, evaluating performance achievements at the organizational level, and evaluating the effectiveness of HR interventions. Example, whether employees perform at higher level after participating in training program. These activities cannot be conducted effectively in the absence of a good PMS. And for the last, we have the documentation or the documentation of. This PMS allows organizations to collect useful information that can be used for several documentation purposes. First, performance data can be used to validate newly proposed selection instrument. For example, a newly developed test of computer literacy can be administered to all administrative personnel. Scores on the test can then be paired with scores collected through the performance management system. If scores on the test on the performance measures are correlated, then the test can be used with the future applicants for the administrative position. Second, PMS also allow for the documentation of important administrative decisions. This information can be especially useful in the case of litigation. Several companies implement performance management systems that allows them to accomplish the multiple objectives described earlier. Next is we have the characteristics of an ideal performance management system. So far, we have defined performance management, described the advantage of implementing good performance management system, discussed some of the dangers of not doing a good job with the design and implementation of the system, and described the various purposes achieved by the good system. But what does a good system look like? The following characteristics are likely to allow PMS to be successful. Practically, constraint may not allow for implementation of all these features. The reality is that PMS are seldom implemented in ideal way. Example, there may not be sufficient funds to deliver training to all people involved. Supervisor may have biases on how they provide performance rating, or people may be just too busy to pay attention to a new organizational initiative that requires their time and attention. Also, there may be organizational or even country level. Also, they may be organizational or even country level constraints that prevent the implementation of good performance management systems. For example, consider the case of Ghana, which is a country that espouses collective's value over individual performance. And its society that is male dominated and dominated by political administrative leaders, where these social-cultural norms have a clear influence on organization decision making and practices. These institutional constraints that are so pervasive in Ghana and so many others emerging market countries must be taken into consideration in terms of what type of PMS will be possible to implement, as well as the effectiveness of such a system. However, regardless of the societal, institutional, and even the practical constraints, we should strive to place a check mark next to each of these characteristics. More features that are checked, the more likely it will be that the system will live up to its promise. First is the strategic congruence. The system should be congruent with the unit or organization strategies. In other words, individual goal must be aligned with unit and organizational goal. The second is the context congruent. The system should be congruent with the organizational culture as well as the broader cultural context of the region or the country. The importance of context in implementing highly effective performance management system is emphasized throughout. Next is the thoroughness. The system should be thorough regarding the four dimensions. First, all employees should be evaluated, even the manager. Second, all major job responsibilities should be evaluated, including the behavior and the result. Third, the evaluation should include performance spanning the entire review period, not just a few weeks or months before the review. Finally, feedback should be given on positive performance aspects as well as those that are in need of improvement. Fourth, we have here the practicality. Systems that are too expensive, time-consuming, and convoluted will obviously not be effective. Good, easy-to-use system. Example, performance data are entered by a user-friendly software are available for managers to help them to make a decision. Finally, the benefits of using the system. Example, increased job performance or job satisfaction may be seen as outweighing the cost, or let's say the time, effort, or expenses. And also we have the meaningfulness. The system must be meaningful in several ways. First, the standard and evaluation conducted for each job function must be considered important and relevant. Second, performance assessment must emphasize only those functions that are under the control of employees. For example, there is no point in letting an employee know she needs to increase the speed of service delivery when the suppliers does not get the product to her on time. Third, evaluation must take place at regular intervals and at appropriate moment, because one formal evaluation per year is usually not sufficient. Informal quarterly reviews are recommended. Fourth, the system should provide for the continuing skills development of evaluators. Finally, the results should be used for important administrative decisions. People will not pay attention to the system that has no consequences in terms of outcomes that they value. Next is the specificity. A good system should be specific. It should provide detailed and concrete guidance to employees about what is expected of them and how they can meet this expectation. And also identification of effective and ineffective performance. The performance management system should provide information that allows for identification of effective and ineffective performance. That is, the system should allow for distinguishing between effective and ineffective behaviors and results, thereby also allowing for the identification of employees displaying various levels of performance effectiveness. In terms of decision making, a system that classifies or rank all levels of performance and all employees similarly is useless. Next is the reliability. A good system should include measures of performance that are consistent and free of error. Example, if two supervisors provided ratings of the same employee and performance dimensions, ratings should be similar. Next is the validity. The measures of performance should also be valid. In this context, validity refers to the fact that the measures include all relevant performance pays and do not include irrelevant performance pays. In other words, measures are relevant. Example, include all critical performance pays, not deficient. Example, do not leave any important aspect out and are not contaminated. In here, do not include factors outside of the control of employees or factors unrelated to performance. In short, measures include what is important and do not assess what is not important and outside of the control of the employees. Next is the acceptability and fairness. A good system is acceptable and is perceived as fair by all participants. Perceptions of fairness are subjective, and also only way to know if a system is seen as fair is to ask the participant about the system. Such perceptions includes four distinct components. First, we can ask about distributive justice, which include perceptions of performance evaluation received relative to the work performed and perception of the rewards received relative to the evaluation received, particularly when the system is implemented across the country. Second, we can also ask about procedural justice, which includes perception of the procedures used to determine the rating as well as the procedure used to link ratings with rewards. The third is we can also assess perception regarding interpersonal justice, which refers to the quality of the design and implementation of the performance management system. And finally, we have here the informational justice. It refers also to the fairness perceptions about performance expectations and goals, feedback received, and the information given to justice administrative decision. For example, our explanation perceived to be honest, sincere, and logical because a good system is inherently discriminatory. Some employees will receive ratings that are lower than those received by other employees. However, we should strive to develop a system that are regarded as fair from distributive, procedural, interpersonal, and informational perspective. Because each type of justice perceptions leads to different outcomes. For example, a perception that the system is not fair from distributive point of view is likely to lead a poor relationship between employees and supervisor and lower satisfaction of employee with the supervisor. On the other hand, a perception that is system that are unfair from procedural point of view is likely to lead to decrease employee commitment towards the organization and increase intentions to leave. One way to improve all four justice dimensions is definitely to set a clear rules that are applied consistently by all supervisors. And also, we have the inclusiveness. A good system include input from multiple sources on an ongoing basis. First is the evaluation processes must represent the concern of all people who will be affected by the outcome. Consequently, employees must participate in the process of creating the system by providing input regarding what behaviors or results will be measured and how. This is particularly important in today's diverse and global organizations, include individuals from different cultural backgrounds, which may lead to different views regarding what is performance and how it should be measured. Second, input about employees' performance should be gathered from the employees themselves before the appraisal meeting. In short, all participants must be given a voice in the process of designing and implementing the system. Such inclusive systems are likely to lead to more successful systems, including the less employee resistance, improved performance, and fewer legal challenges. Second is the openness. Good systems have no secret. First, performance is evaluated frequently, and performance feedback is provided on an ongoing basis. Therefore, employees are continually informed of the quality of their performance. Second, the appraisal meeting consists of two-way communication process, during which information is exchanged, not delivered from the supervisor to the employee without his or her input. Third, standards should be clear and communicated on an ongoing basis. Finally, communications are factual, open, and honest. Next is the correctability. The process of assigning ratings should minimize subjective aspect. However, it is virtually impossible to create a system that is completely objective because human judgment is an important component of the evaluation process. When employees perceive an error has been made, there should be a mechanism through which this error can be corrected. Establishing an appeals process through which employees can challenge what may be a just decision is an important aspect of a good performance management system. Second to the last is we have here the standardization. As noted earlier, good systems are standardized. This means that performance is evaluated consistently across people and time. To achieve this goal, the ongoing training of the individual in charge of appraisals, usually managers, is a must. Third is the ethicality. The good system comply with ethical standards. This means that the supervisor suppresses her personal self-interest in providing evaluation. In addition, the supervisors evaluates only performance dimensions for which she has sufficient information and the privacy of employees is respected. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening.